All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing our weekly review for this week's episode of Fear the Walking Dead Season 6. This is for episode 13 now. It is called JD. Alright, impossible spoiler warning for this episode. If you guys have not seen it yet, it's aired now on AMC Plus, as you guys are used to. And if you don't have it, you can watch it this upcoming weekend, this Sunday night, and see the episodes. So, we've got a few episodes left of Fear the Walking Dead for this season. We've got 14, 15, and 16. So after this episode, we just have 3 more left. And then that will wrap up Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, which I think is the best season they've done in the series. Some people are still saying they think season 3 is the best, but depending on how these last few episodes go, at least for me anyway, I've enjoyed this season, just as much, maybe just as much as 3, and as long as the ending is pretty good, maybe my favorite season ever. Although season 3's ending was pretty awesome with the dam, the explosion, and everything, so it's tricky stuff. So in this week's episode, we get to see what is sort of a focus episode for John. John Dorie, JD is the name of the episode, but in this one we get to meet John's father, which I thought was kind of weird. I had kind of heard about it in the preview kind of trailer for this one coming up, and I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to feel about it, because it felt a little bit contrived at first when we first kind of had heard about it. But surprisingly, as the episode goes through, it's basically explained to June that actually, even though he's John's father and they have the same name and everything, so John Dorie is a junior. So in this one, we get to meet John Dorie Senior. He wasn't actually involved in John's life basically at all, at least not from the time that he was younger. I think they said the number was 40 years in this episode. Now, so it is a bit kind of odd that she would happen to run into his father, but I really like the way they kind of worked it in what they did was, and I think there have been mentions of this throughout the series leading up to this, mentions of his father from him, that kind of thing, and him being a cop, and the planting and all this stuff, that he had planted some evidence on a perp in order to arrest him, had his father, and then in this one, they tied it in really nicely in that we find out in this episode that Teddy was the perp that John Dorie Senior had planted the stuff on, framed, in order to get him off the streets, in order to arrest him. And there are occasions actually where this actually happens. I've seen a few. I can recall a few where sometimes cops will be absolutely certain that somebody did something, and so sometimes they'll do that. Not something that they should ever do, but it happens. You know, there are cases, well documented cases of times when it's done, and either it doesn't work out, something goes wrong, and the cop gets caught. It does actually happen. But in this case, you can understand why he did it, in that we're getting to see this, what I call a cult. Some people think other groups are kind of more cult-like than the End is the Beginning group here. But I think they're the most cult-like group we've ever seen in The Walking Dead, in that they have this idol worship for Teddy. They worship him, and they kind of, again, they look at him like some kind of a cult leader. So I really liked how this, him being a mortician, and basically, it's pretty cool. Like, it actually felt like something different than, again, different from what we're used to for Walking Dead, but something that you've seen sort of archetypes for or other things for in other series, which is quite familiar, which is that you have a detective or a cop who's going after somebody, and in this case, I liked how they worked this in. So he had arrested Teddy for some of the crimes that he was doing beforehand, which it sounds like was pretty much the same thing as he's doing now. And then after he had gotten him off the streets and arrested him, obviously with the zombie apocalypse hitting and everything, Teddy, being so dangerous, was able to find a way to escape, was able to find a way to get out. And that to me felt supernatural. If you guys, not supernatural, it felt very natural. If you guys remember back in the Walking Dead original series, if you go back to like season 3 where they went to the prison and everything, and there was Thomas and some of the others that were there, it sort of reminded me a little bit like that in my mind that, okay, here you've got this guy who has a rivalry going with John's dad, and it pretty much, in dealing with this guy, being that he's so dangerous, he sort of ruined John Dorie's dad's life, and then thereby also kind of negatively impacted John's life, and that his dad felt so guilty for having framed Teddy that he had actually kind of left his family and everything and turned to drink, it sounds like. So now it kind of comes full circle as John Senior had found out that Teddy was back out on the streets and that he went to check on him, and sure enough, he had kind of gotten away. And of course, he would be the kind of person that would survive this long in the zombie apocalypse because he just has that maybe like a narcissistic type of skill set that some of these cult leaders have that bring others in under them and just become absolutely so dangerous. And they're so scary, nobody from within will turn against them. So I love what they did with this. Usually it goes the other way around in series. You have the protagonist first will kind of be introduced, and then you'll get to see the antagonist afterwards. In this case, with this season of Fear, they did the opposite. Teddy was introduced. We already know who Teddy is, and now we're getting to meet John Senior, which we have heard about from John in the past before and with June, and find out that he's basically on his case. I also like that he's got kind of like the classic conspiracy board where he's got like the cutouts and the dot connections between all the stuff. It was just, I geeked out quite a bit because I thought like, oh, his dad's like a it's into that. It was just a cool visual in his RV to see that. And you have this really awesome setup for Teddy, who's already a pretty scary villain, but now we get kind of the good guy that's on the chase after him because he knows just how absolutely scary this guy is, and could have never suspected before the zombie apocalypse started that something like this would happen, but knew once the world went to shit that that's going to be the kind of guy who you got to watch out for. Like he's almost like, he doesn't have the same personality as like a Negan. He's different in a lot of ways, but that's the kind of guy who would start the end is the beginning type of group, which currently has Alicia, right? So it's it's really good stuff. So in addition to getting to meet John Dorie Senior, some awesome scenes with him in June. I like that he kind of locks her and then he tries to kind of leave, and she's able to kind of get out of there with the others and whatnot. But so he kind of does the same thing with her as he had done with his family beforehand. And then in addition to everything we have there, I like the scene at the end where he gets to meet Morgan. And it was a really touching episode because if we think back, Morgan had ran into John after he left Rick in the group, and John was always so positive and everything, and some great dialogue in this one that the dad would kind of know that he had this positive light about him, and that June obviously would already know that, and she does. So there's the gun. They use kind of the guns to kind of introduce, to kind of see like, oh, this is, she's got John's gun and everything, and so it just went through really well throughout the episode. I really liked all the different scenes with him and with Senior and with June as well, and then him fighting the guy on the gravesite for John was kind of cool. Him getting shot and then June kind of saving him and shooting the guy, stopping him kind of back. So right up until the end, liked it when he got to meet Morgan. And enjoy that because Morgan and John were close. And John was such an awesome character. I'm really glad they did this where they kind of sort of did, an add-on. So they didn't just have John be killed off randomly. Yes, that did happen, but it wasn't entirely just resolved right away in that we get to meet his father here. So it sort of adds on to John's story arc and kind of allows it to go on even further than it was, even though he's already at this time dead. So there were some cool scenes like a walker getting stuck its body underneath the RV and kind of spinning up and kind of ruining for them, which was kind of fun. But also in addition to that, we also get kind of a spotlight in this one on Dwight and Sherry. So we have them in and around with June. We have June discussing with Morgan Morgan's kind of mad at June because of the baby being a stillborn and everything, and her not being there as the nurse, so checking on Grace and everything. But then the focus on Dwight and Sherry. So we have a situation here where Sherry is having trouble letting go of the past, letting go of what happened with Negan and what happened with the Saviors. So she wants to kind of go all the way back to Virginia and kill Negan. And I did love in this episode that we got mentions of Negan in Fear, because it kind of made it more, Walking Dead, because it made it more to where, sometimes you forget, like, oh, right, they're from the original Walking Dead series, and they crossed over into Fear, the three of them, Morgan and Dwight and Sherry. And so if they don't mention anything that had happened prior as part of their kind of backstory, then it sort of disjoints the series. It kind of makes you feel like you forget that it's in the same universe, right? And the mention of Negan in this one, I just laughed my ass off, because it's like, okay, he's not in Fear, but for her to go to that extent to want to leave and go all the way back to Virginia to try to kill Negan, it kind of brings him into Fear as even if he's just talked about as a character in Fear, even though he's not actually there. So the episode runs on through. You got the horses. She shoots the horses. She seems pretty messed up. She shoots the horse without hesitation. And she's pretty screwed up after what happened with Negan before and Dwight and everything, and she's having trouble kind of getting back together with Dwight. But by the end of the episode, she realizes that chasing someone else like that, putting herself in danger, and there's no telling that if she was to return, that she would actually be able to survive it, and that Dwight would be there as well still. So in this case, she has to sort of learn to let go of the past in order for them to kind of have a present and a future together here. So I just love when Dwight mentioned Negan. I thought it was awesome because sometimes you're watching the show through and you forget that, oh, that's right. Like, okay, I know Dwight, I know Sherry, I know of them, right? I know Morgan, obviously. But you forget that, oh, that's right, they crossed over from here into here. So it would make sense that that's part of their backstory and that they would talk about that from time to time, in that it's important to them. And obviously what happened with Negan kind of screwed up their marriage, and it kind of messed things up for them. And so she probably hates herself and has a lot of guilt for what happened with that. If you guys remember Negan's wives and the whole thing. That's terrible. So she has a lot of guilt for that. So she has to let that go in order to live in the present and not chase it all the way back there. Plus Maggie already wants to kill Negan anyway. So, but then again, this is further back in the past than that. So we know that she doesn't return because we don't see her come back at any point in time. Or at least she doesn't pull the trigger because Negan's still alive in the future. So awesome. So I love the episode. I'm going to give it an 8.6 out of 10. I thought it was great. I love to see them expand on John's sort of legacy by bringing in John Senior. I don't think he'll survive very long in Fear the Walking Dead. Like I'm thinking most likely by the end of this season, Senior will be dead. But I do like that they kind of brought him in as an extension for John to build out John's backstory a little bit more because he was killed off and everything. It works for June. And I really like it for Teddy as this kind of rivalry kind of going here, and that somebody as kind of badass and crazy as Teddy is would have, an opposite that would be sort of his Rick to his Negan, or somebody that would be his opposite to play off of him. And in this case, it's John Dorie Senior. So I enjoyed the episode a lot, but after watching it through, I didn't feel like it was too contrived. They brought his dad in as a character. It actually worked for me a lot, especially with how they worked it in with him having this rivalry with Teddy. So that's it for this review, guys. Let me know what you thought about the episode. I loved it. I thought it was great. And works for June, works for Senior, works for John, even though he's already dead. Just makes it a lot better by expanding on it. And works for Teddy as well, too. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you back again soon for another. Let me know what your favorite parts were and how you felt about the mention of Negan, Dwight and Sherry getting back together. Happy ending for them. And if Sherry could sort her problems out and let go. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace later, guys. See you soon.